All right. I think we're ready to kick it off here. So, good morning, everyone. My name's Tom Patterson. I'm with the customer success team here at Risk and Safety Solutions. We've got a great webinar to talk about the quarterly progress report and what our plans are. I'm going to be helping to moderate. If you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A within Zoom. We do plan on answering questions. There were some that were submitted ahead of time, and you can also type them in as they come up. We do plan on answering those questions when we have time at the end. And I'm going to throw it on over to Diana Cox and Will Alexi to take it away.
All right. Thank you, Tom. And thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day to join us this morning. We're hoping that you find this information useful and that we can have a good discussion and just kind of fine tune this as we move forward with other updates. My name is Diana Cox, Director of Business Development. I have been with Risk and Safety for 17 years, I believe now. So it's been some time.
And I'm Will Alexi. I'm the Chief of Staff at Risk and Safety Solutions, and I have been with RSS for almost 15 years. So also been here for a while and seen all the growth.
All right, we're going to hop in. So just so everyone knows, this is being recorded. We will share the recording at the end. As Tom mentioned, we are going to do our best to get to questions, but we do have a lot of information. So, all right, so here's our agenda. Just a couple quick announcements. We're going to go through a progress report. We're going to go over the roadmap, and it's pretty detailed. There's a lot of information to process and learn. So we'll go through that, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some new support channels that we have, and then we'll get to the questions and answers. All right. Oops, sorry.
So we just want to let everyone know. So we are bringing in everyone unmuted on entry. We're asking the people to stay muted. We want to try and get through as much of this information as we can to give everyone a good update of where we're at, where we're going. And then we will try and answer any of the questions. Please feel free to put them into the Q&A section as we're going, and we'll do our best to answer those at the end or follow up with them afterwards if we can't quite get to all of them. So, yeah.
All right. And I'm going to, before we dive in, I'm just going to start real direct here. I want to acknowledge that some of the platform, the rollouts, the timelines have been communicated to you perhaps a year ago, 2 years ago, and some of those timelines have not been met. We're aware of that. We're going to go through some of those details today and show you actually where we are at, which is probably farther along than many of you may know, which is why I'm going to demo the actual software for you and going over the roadmap too. But I just want to start by saying we know that that's a big concern, which is part of the reason that we're having this progress report update today. We also know that it's only meaningful to give you information that's going to help you in your day-to-day work, right? So just saying, oh, we have a platform and oh, we have AI, like that's not necessarily meaningful to you, right? What you want to know is how is that going to make my job easier? How is it going to make working smarter and make it so you can focus on the things that are more important? So we're going to try to give you updates that are very specific to how it benefits you and not just, oh, we did this and oh, we've built that. The goal is to keep you informed with reliable information, timely updates. We're going to do this quarterly. We're open to suggestions too. If information's missing, if you want a different channel of information, we're definitely open to how we can kind of close that gap, because I know that there's a lot of information being shared and discussed, and it just be nice to have a very standardized and kind of systematic approach to how we can communicate these updates. So we have this webinar. We also wrote a newsletter that you probably got, because I think it's the same listserv that got this. Feel free, if you want folks to be added to that as well, let us know. And then we also are launching the Risk and Safety community, which will also be another place to share and get information. All right. So a little bit onto the progress report. All right, so I'm going to just start with a little bit of background. I'm sure some of you have heard about the platform and this no code, and you have some concept of that, but I want everyone to be on the same page when I'm discussing these updates, because I think it will help kind of level set the field for everybody when we're communicating. So we have in the past 3 to 4 years invested heavily in what we're calling our no code platform. And the concept behind the no-code platform is it's going to make your work processes, building and automating all of your work processes easier, faster, and more flexible. So how we used to do it, of course, is we would build, for example, our first system we started building was biosafety, right? We put all our developers working into building biosafety, and biosafety has all these different components. And then we'd move off of that project a couple of years later and then start another project, or we grew and we had teams doing different things. What we learned throughout the 17, 18 years that we've been doing this is that the rigid, that makes it so we have to hard code things, right? It's very rigid. And so the concept of the no code platform is going to allow us to have more flexibility and be quicker. So getting a change made in the past take months or weeks, right? Because we had to prioritize it and get the resources onto it. Now it's going to take minutes if you are sitting with your account manager, and we'll get more into that in a little bit. So again, your CST and your account managers, I'm going to show a map at the end of who they are and where they are, but they are going to be the ones that are actually going to help you build and make updates, and not developers. So the developers are going to focus on making the no code platform, so people like myself and Will and others and your account managers can build out the solutions. So we also know we have about 30 plus we're called legacy systems. So think of those, biochemicals, radiation inspection, all those different systems, and eventually they will all go into the platform. And we understand that is probably scary, concerning. It's a huge big step because a lot of you have been using our systems for multiple years, and so we're approaching it very carefully to make the transition as smooth and pain-free as possible. When we get to the time where we are ready to switch over, we will work with each location, find a time that works for you, make sure that you have all the planning that you need, the training, the validation, all those different pieces in place. So we are not going to say, oh, okay, next week we're switching to the new, lab hazard assessment tool and everybody has to do it, right? We're going to take a more kind of careful and thought out approach to make sure that the process is smooth and also the value add is there. Okay. Sorry, I clicked the button. All right, here we go. And then again, I think a lot of people think, oh, I've heard about the platform, but like I haven't seen it, right? It's understandable. We haven't really done a great job communicating and demoing where we're at, but it is actually in use. We've used it to build our workplace violence prevention for UCOA, and then also the integrated pest management program. So that is all built with the no code platform. And these demonstrate just the ability to deliver solutions that are highly customizable to the locations. And then also that lays the groundwork for the next solutions as well. So this is where I spend a lot of time trying to explain this to people, so I'll do my best here. The way that we're building, so as I mentioned before, it was kind of these monolithic applications, right? But every application that we build has some form that collects data, right? And then oftentimes that form gets routed to somebody else. And when you route that to someone else for approval, there's a notification that goes into place. So, if we're building away and we built the integrated pest management, all of the components that we needed to build to those solutions, we can now use those for the future solutions. So it may feel like when you look at the roadmap or when you hear that we've rolled this out, that we're so far from getting the other solutions out, but really we're building each little Lego block, each component to help build those later systems. So for example, as I mentioned, when we built integrated pest management, there was a PUA, right? A pesticide use authorization process. Well, that same component that we built to build out that use authorization is now already done and can be used for bio, rad, laser, controlled substances, any type of use authorization. And so again, we have some graphics to help explain this, but the idea is when we build it once, we can then apply it to everything else moving forward. So initially there's a little bit of a, kind of a steep development to build all these different components, but then it'll be faster, right? It'll start to come out quicker because the pieces are built. And so the other change that we've made is our account managers. So the customer success team folks that you're probably very familiar with, they are being trained and they can actually sit with you, build out solutions, customize it, hop on a Zoom call, change things. And again, this is going to take away all of that effort that, you put in a ticket and then you don't know exactly when it's going to be done and someone communicates back. So it's going to be very fast. And it's just more collaborative too. And you can actually test your workflows and like sitting with the person. A lot of times what we've realized on some of these new ones that we've built out, what you thought was your workflow wasn't actually what you wanted when you automated it. And so you can sit with the person and change it. All right, I'm turning it over to Will now.
So the roadmap. So one of the, as we said at the beginning, the focus of this meeting is to be more transparent, make sure everyone's kind of up to date on all the things. And one of the areas that we're really focusing on helping to improve that is the way we're doing our roadmap. So there are changes. We're adding more information. Want to go through that with everybody just to make sure not only, is everyone up to date on where we are and what we're doing, but also how to maybe read this if they get it so that it's not confusing. All right. And so the first page of our roadmap that we've got now, this is our current one, talks about the things that we've released, over the last year or more recently. And as you can see, as Diana mentioned, there are things already released within the platform. We've got the workplace violence prevention, laser use management, so our bigger ones like pesticides and ergonomics for some campuses. And then there's also other things that are actually available that aren't necessarily part of the applications that you already have been using that we're moving over, but because of the way we've been developing, you can get access to alcohol service and permitting, field safety, you know, different vehicle accident reports, different solutions that also can kind of help you out if you need those, right? And then we have our next column, and this is what we are currently working on and expecting to have technically done by the end of Q2. All right, and so that's ergo self-assessment evaluation, lab hazard monitor drones, some of those different tools. In this column, what this is showing isn't necessarily when we're expecting this to be out and being used by all of you, but when it's ready for that. So then when your customer success team representatives can start working with you on those migration plans to say, okay, lab hazard assessment tool is now in the platform. How do we want to work together to get you into that and get you off of the older version of it? I also know some of you have probably seen other versions of this roadmaps, and lab hazard assessment tool or ergo or drones or monitor were supposed to be out already according to those older versions. And so we do want to acknowledge sometimes things in software development shift, changing priorities, needs to do things like the pesticides came up, and that was a compliance thing that had to be done on a certain timeline. So that moves some things. There are other pieces like, we're trying really hard to make sure that our training environment for everybody in the new platform is the best it can be. And we had to make sure that we were working to get that in the right place. So things do shift. And again, this is why we're having this meeting and trying to share this, is to keep everyone up to date and be as transparent as possible. The future column is the things we're going to work on next. And I know a lot of people probably on here are looking at this and going, well, I only care about chemicals or radiation or biosafety, and why is that in the future? And so I want to make sure everyone understands, kind of as Diana mentioned, and we'll go through that in the next kind of graphics that we have as part of our roadmap, that just because it says future doesn't mean we're not working on it. Because of the way that we're developing the platform, working on lab hazard assessment, the pieces that build that are also pieces of chemicals, biosafety, radiation waste. And so we are working on those now. We just don't quite have them scheduled for release yet. And so those will get moved in as we finish this Q2 stuff into we'll identify which pieces we're working on next. That'll hopefully move some more of those in, and we'll have them ready for you going forward. So if we jump into the next slide.
And I know, so Tom just sent me a little chat. It looks like people are squinting trying to read this. We will share the slides afterwards.
All right, so this graphic, I know maybe a little confusing, but what we're trying to show you here is sort of what Diane talked about. As we build some of our applications, the feature studies to get things done, like workplace violence prevention, ergo self-assessment, pesticides in a way, those features across the top that we finish for those, such as the form, the workflow, the notification, are actually already then done for our other applications, right? And then the blue squares around the stars, those are things we're currently working on. And as we finish those, they'll also be available for those other systems, such as OHSS, LHAT, monitor, chemicals, radiation. And then we have the white stars are the things we haven't quite started working on yet. And so if you look at like, okay, well, when LHAT's done, right, we're currently working on different pieces like the library management for PPE and the outcomes. That's some of the assignments. That'll allow that to also be done for other things. And then we'll work on the other pieces, the integration, the expiration, and that'll also snowball into the other pieces. So again, like a snowball effect, and I think we've all heard that analogy. As it rolls downhill and it creates momentum and mass, more things get done. And so there's a big lift on the beginning to get some of those really big pieces like forms, workflow, layout engine done. But as we finish more pieces, it's not just for LHAT like we did in the past, where we build LHAT and then we build chemicals. We're building all of them at the same time. And it's just, some of them have more pieces, so they take a little bit longer to be ready. Jump through music.
Yeah.
Another slide that just shows the rest of those applications that we're working on currently. So I know like chemicals is a big one. We've got a large chunk of pieces that are ready to go. Those yellow ones are done because we already built them. Working on some of those blue ones right now, and then we'll jump into those white ones as we get further along. Okay. Right. So this is kind of the last page of our roadmap that people will be able to see. And this really just kind of lays out sort of what do some of those features include, right? The form creation, what are some of the question types available? And those will all be added. This will be added to as we finish more things. And also the sections that we've already completed may be fleshed out more. We may add more question types that are available. We may add more types of search features or flesh out our workflow as we build more of our solutions. but this gives you an idea of sort of what are the features that we have and what they can do, and then some of the planned features that we have coming, right? And to simplify that a little bit, we have one more graphic,
Yeah.
and that's just to sort of show where we're at in LHAT, right? I know that's the big one that we're hopefully going to finish next. Our plan is to finish it by the end of Q2. And so far we have workflow, forms, layout engine, notifications, all of those things done, right? And we're working on the acknowledgements, assignments, outcomes, library groups, and then an X without integration expiration. And so again, all of those pieces we're working on, and then they also translate into useful pieces for the next solutions that we're also going to work.
And just to add a little bit there, so integration is, for example, there is a training component to LHAT, right? So integrating with the training and the training records. And then under the in progress library management is, for example, all the different types of PPE will come from the library, in addition to the groups that he mentioned too. So in case it's not clear, because it's a little bit technical still.
Yeah. All right, so we did talk about things shifted, right? Lab hazard assessment tool, unit risk assessment, Ergo also shifted a little bit. And that's normal in software development. And I know it can be frustrating. And we just want to be, like I said, transparent that we did have to change some of our priorities, right? We have to make sure that the legacy applications you're currently using are still working for you as we start moving towards getting everyone moved into the platform and the no code and being able to be a little bit more customizable. We had to continue working on the pesticide tiering requests because of the needs for that and the compliance around that. And then we also spent some time working to make sure that we increased our security and the stability of our systems, right? So there is, on top of the work we're doing for moving things into the platform, for ensuring that the existing systems are working, we're working on other high priority compliance like MAQ. We're also constantly working towards making sure that our systems are going to be as secure and stable as possible for you. So we're continuing to work on pieces. Like I said, we'll continue to share the roadmap. If things shift, we'll let you know. We'll try and let you know why. But we're really hoping that we can make sure that we're not shifting as much as before and being as transparent as possible. All right, so one of the other things I wanted to talk about with the platform is as we're building those components or those features that we showed earlier, in order to move all of our existing systems into the platform and make them better for you, make them much more customizable, more useful, is those components can also be used for other things that may solve problems for you. Okay? And I really want to highlight here is these are built not taking any time away from our developers who are working still on coding and making sure those features are built for the other systems. These are completely done by your customer success team representative with no coding. And so we can build other things that might help you in the H&S or risk management, such as ergonomic stuff, laser use authorization, defensive driving, activities with minors, youth camp registration. But because you're also all customers of us, we can also help you with other everyday things that may not be EH&S or risk management specific, but could make your teams or your offices more efficient. Things like, I know we're all dealing with travel restrictions right now, and you may have more rules around how you approve travel. So you could work with your CST member to build out a travel request form, or vendor risk assessment forms, project request forms, anything you're kind of doing now that maybe is Excel, paper, PDF, smart sheets, Google Docs. We can actually automate a lot of that stuff for you and make your office a little bit more efficient. And again, that's completely no programming needed, just working with your CST. So back to the flexibility that the new platform is kind of going to provide and the ability to customize, it also is going to give us the ability to provide even more solutions for your everyday problems and your EH&S risk management problems without to change the direction of the development. Do that. There. And so Diana's going to show a demo of sort of how the system's working now, and some of the things we talked about. And
So it log in everything. Good. Okay. So I am actually in the platform right now. So for those of you that know me, I'm not like for so in here, I'm just working on building it. I'm just using it as an example today. So hopefully you can see across the top here. We have the ability to add question types, right? So if I go into this edit, and again, we can add this. I can insert, when I click this insert here, I'm able to add all these types of questions, right? So that's what the team has been building out this framework so that we can build you a solution, right? Any type of question I want, or I can add up and have a do one in the right. So if you want like a question, answer one, triggers another one, all those different pieces in place. We also have the ability to have custom roles and permission, which is a huge thing y'all have been asking for a very long time. So you can actually add new roles. You can give access if they can submit it, if they can approve. Now, of course, if you're submitting your own document, maybe you can't approve it, but there's a lot of flexibility around the amount of custom roles and what they can do. And I'm just doing a brief demo here. If you want a deeper dive, by all means, we can have a separate session. Outcomes. So that, think of that as a, if you ask somebody a question and you want that question to then trigger a response, for example, LHAT, right? I work with Fireforex, so therefore I need this PPE. So an outcome is the, would be the type of PPE that person would need for answering those questions. In this example, it could also be that you need someone to acknowledge the form as when submitted. So again, all this is completely customizable. The other thing that's going to be new and different and hopefully a value add to everybody is the ability to build your own metrics. So for example, right now you're stuck with whatever reports we have provided you, or in our analytics, you might have to export them and then take them to Excel and then, make them into your own. We actually have the ability to, based on the questions that are asked in your solution, to go ahead and create reports and different metrics based on those questions. So for example, if you wanted to create a metric for every camp that is involved in a lab, you could do that, and it would show, I don't have any data in here because it's just my test environment, but it would then show in a graph how many of your camp activities are also working in a lab, right? And so you have completely customizable abilities on the metrics there. The other thing that we've heard year after year is notifications, right? So these are also completely customizable. So at the different stages of workflow, and actually I like the workflow the best, right? This is not that complicated of a workflow, as you can imagine, with the integrated pest management that we built out. Now it has a very, very robust workflow, I would say. But this is all, you can see I can click it, drag it, I can change the workflow. So if I want it go draft to withdrawal or unapproved, I have the ability to change workflows that fast. This used to take developers weeks, months, right? You also, so where the little, envelope is, that's where the notifications that I just showed you can be customized. So at that point, it means there's a notification that goes out when it's submitted, right? Probably alerts the program admin, and you can completely customize that message. And let's say, for example, you decline it, it's not approved, you're going to want a message, right? That says why. And so those are a big thing people have always asked for, is I don't want to have the same messages. All my other campuses, we're different. We have different needs. So yeah, the workflow is the one that you can get pretty wild when you're building out some new solutions, but it's actually the coolest because it's pretty fast. Data mapper, this is a little techy for some folks, but a lot of people have asked, I just want to take the data from this system and plug it into my other system, right? So that's what this allows you to do. You can kind of put these different identifying keys onto each one of the question types or question fields, and then you would have the ability to map that data over to, say, another system if you wanted, for example. And then the ability to configure comments. So think again, if you're doing some sort of application that maybe a biological use authorization, maybe you've reviewed it and you want to make comments on the document back to the owner, right? Back to the person who submitted the BUA. And so you can do that. And so by allowing comments, it allows the program admin or whichever role you choose to add comments and explain exactly what it is that they want you to change or what needs clarification and editing. So again, as I'm building this out, I can preview it. So what you saw was the back end, what we can build, and this is what it's going to look like for folks who actually get the link or find their way to the homepage and fill out this form. And then, of course, there's a submission page too at the end. So at the end of whenever somebody submits something, you can have custom information. We have the ability, again, they're paginated. So from a user experience point of view, it's not just one long scrolling form. You can have kind of a separation in forms and pages also. All right. You go back. to my slideshow. All right. Just a couple more things and then we'll get into the question section here. Okay, so a few support things. So again, this is your customer success team, account managers, sometimes called solution representatives too. But these are the folks that you can go to for help on your campuses specifically, or you can always just email Joan Holmes or myself.
Yeah, and as Diana said, we've trained all of them to be able to help build some of these solutions out for you. So when they're on campus, you can sit down with them, you can Zoom with them, you can talk to them, and they can do those customizations or build out those other solutions that you might need on the fly, work through it with you, test it out, make sure it's working, and then get it to you really quickly.
And I can assure you, these folks do come back and tell Joan, and Joan works with myself, and we work with the development team to try to mitigate any of the challenges that you're experiencing, right? So I know, we're saying they can help you build things, but we also understand and fully support that, or want you to know that they are really good about being the voice of the customer and bringing back your questions, concerns, comments. And then we're working with us to try to figure out how we can kind of mitigate or fix some of those issues. So they're there for you. They are there to help and to listen and to, hopefully support. And then we also have this new, it's our RSS community. It is a place I think like an online forum, right? Ideally, it would be great if you did have a question or to create this community where you can cross share information. We get a lot of questions and a lot of them are just directed to our training folks or to our CST. And we really wanted a space where, if you were looking to see how other people are doing barcoding, or you were looking how other people are managing, are they assigning their lab hazard assessments to people, or do they let their PIs create them? Or you just have any kind of questions around the business and how you're utilizing the tools. And also, if there's an issue that you want to make us aware of or feedback, this is the place that you can go and do that. We had sent out a link for people to register. At that point, we had moderation, or we had to approve everybody. And I think you probably just got a blank screen, so you may not have come back to it. So we'll relaunch it. And hopefully we encourage you all to go in there and post questions or ideas. And also it's where we'll put information as well. And then the other resource that we've put together in the last 6 months or so is the training page. We are going to be moving to Proper Academy within like a training, like an LMS for just our own RSS trainings. But for now, we also have all the different training resources available at this link here for you to go to. So videos, tutorials, walkthroughs, and then of course we have the team that can help as well. All right, so that's what we had for the kind of the updates. I'm sure we've got some questions here.
So we did get we did get some questions ahead of time, which we really appreciate. Then we can follow up, especially the more technical ones that maybe we don't know off the top of our heads. We can go and find some of that information out. So one of the questions from Yemi was a question about load speeds on RSS, especially with the IIR website. I don't have an exact here's what's wrong, but I do know I talked to one of our architects yesterday, and they believe they have an answer for that and an idea of what's causing some of those slower load speeds. So it can't tell you exactly why or exactly when, but they will be reaching out and making sure that we're resolving that. And a lot of it seems to have to do with the number of people to supervisor and things like that. So some of these maybe, hey, we'll reach out or follow up. And if you have any other questions you put in that maybe are more technical and we can't answer on live here, we'll be following up with those as well. So Pete from UCSC was wondering, is there a respirator fit test database tool that'll be available in the future? And so there is a summary page that can be configured to create a certificate, which is what I think we were looking for as a generalist federating a completion certificate. And so we can reach out and walk you through how to generate that. That there is a way to generate that in the summary page of that tool. Got it. Steve from UC Davis Health was wondering if there's a way for DSCs to view the locations of BUAs without being listed on the BUA or having access to full details. I mean, we did confirm that safety coordinator role for a collection can see read-only views of the BUAs related to the profile groups of their collection. And so that's another one where we can work with your customer success team representatives to work with you on how you can navigate to there and see those. If other people are interested in that, they can also reach out. And then the last question we got ahead of time was a question about sort of where are we with the unit risk assessment feature that we've mentioned in the past. And so we are still working on that. We're currently working with UCOP in a small work group, and that work group is currently working on content. So once we receive the content for that system, that solution, our developers will make sure that that content is loaded in, corrected, tested with the work group, and then we can hopefully give you a further update about that.
Okay, and then we've got a couple questions in the chat. We're probably just going to leave the names anonymous. I don't think it matters necessarily. But the
Sure.
first one is, based on the roadmap, it seems like there's not one single program that built out fully. Why do we keep releasing half-baked programs? And I think we do have 3 that are released. So as I mentioned, it was Away. Integrated Pest Management goes live next week, technically. And then also the Workplace Violence Prevention, that's in the platform, right? Those are completed solutions, but they can also still always be built upon. And then ergonomics and LHAT are our next big focus.
Yeah, and as you saw, like ergonomics, there is a campus using ergonomics because even though we're still building components for that, that solution met their current needs and was better than what they were previously doing or met a timeline that they needed. Same thing with pesticides in a way. I know if you look at the stars, that's probably where this came from. Some of the stars are still in progress or not quite completed. We're dedicated to constantly making sure that we're enhancing our solutions as well. And so a solution may be released because it meets the needs of people then, but when we get feedback, oh, it would be great if it would do these things, and then we're going to go and enhance it. And that's something that we're willing to do forever. We're not going to finish something and then just move on, especially because these components can be plugged into other solutions. If we develop something for a different solution and find that that's valuable to something that we've already got users using, we'll make that available as well. And so that's the reason why you may see, nothing's completely done, because in our minds, nothing's ever completely done. We can be enhancing if that makes sense and adds value.
And some people want to use it earlier on, right? Some people have nothing. So they're like, hey, I'm happy if I just start with this laser use authorization, for example, but knowing that we will build out the inventory and we'll build out, the other components to it too. But it's a great question. Our goal is not to put out half-baked products. Our goal is to finish them, to get them in your hands, to get you using them right, and then enhance them over time. So the other question is, anyone from UCOP on this call? They did register. I just did a quick search in the participants. I don't see Ken. I don't see Veronica. If there is a UCOP person, let us know. They did register, but just maybe something came up.
And then we do have a question about, the solution, creating new solutions. Is that something that is sort of limited to the account managers, or will people be able to do their own? Right now, it is limited to the account managers, and they can work with you directly. In the future, we definitely would like to explore the idea of, if there is someone on the campus that has the technical knowledge or would like to be trained, we could eventually open that up so that campuses can manage their own. We just have to make sure too that we have the correct things in place to make sure that they're tested, so that when they go out, they're working for everybody, as well as if there is compliance that they're working towards, and UCOP needs certain information, or other regulatory bodies need certain information, that we're making sure those get captured. And so we're working through what are those details for that would look like, but that would be something that we'd like to do in the future.
All right. And then we have another question here. It says, how's the no-code approach address chemical data in the MAQ system where I'm finding a lot of errors? So even though we're doing the no-code, there is still people doing that side of the house, right? So we still have experts that are curating data and library. So we have people on staff that are developers. They're doing the no-code piece. We also have folks on staff that have chemical degrees, and we're trying to work with the data. And then the data would go into the library, and the library is the no-code piece, right? Where we can pull that library into solutions, but we still have people dedicated and working on curating and ensuring that the data is the best that we can get.
And we also have developers who are dedicated to the MAQ effort, because we know that that's a really big piece that's coming up for the UC very soon. And all of the stuff that they're doing, the features that they're developing, or the enhancements that they're making for the MAQ data, will also be used when chemicals makes it to the platform. And so we're working constantly to try and make sure the library is more robust, and we'll do a better job. The upload features are more robust, and we'll do a better job once we get in there.
All right. And then I am going to say this name just because Joan Holmes, we have a Joan Holmes in our staff too. So I said earlier, oh, you can always email Joan, but different Joan. But I have your question here. So it says, interested in the UC Accommodate module to be integrated with this platform. I'm going to have to pull up the roadmap on that one because I don't have that one up in my head unless anyone else on the team does. Oh, you don't see it.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, there it is.
yeah, so we just need to find Accommodate. So we'll get back to that. Let me see. Do you want to look
And it
that one
looks
up?
like some folks contacted our Joan to be able to get into the meeting, and she sent them the Zoom link, and it's auto setting their name as her name. So it looks like there's
Oh.
10
Yeah.
Joan Holmes in our webinar right
Yeah.
now. So it's a
Okay,
Zoom
that makes
technical
sense.
thing.
Okay. I was just like, that's funny. I didn't know there's so many Jones in the world. All right. Sorry about that.
Now I finally see that question.
Okay. So back to Accommodate. We need to find out where that's out on the grid. We'll look that up. And I'll move on to Dave. This next question, it looks like you're approaching object-oriented programming with a cool GUI. Are you also using AI to code or assemble objects? Great question. Yes, we have a couple different ones. You probably, if I hop back over a few slides on that slide, of all the text on there, some of the ones I can talk to are smart inspections, for example. And then also I personally think the assessment builder that we're building along with the deep dive. So I'll break these down, right? The deep dive is, think of Chat GPT of sorts, right? But with your own data. So instead of having to go to the analytics dashboard and say, show me all the hazard class chemicals of this code in this building, filter down, like you'll be able to ask it, right? Like, tell me where all of my, H1s are, tell me where all my pyrophoric coats are, or what were my top 5 findings across these labs in the last 2 years. So just you could ask your question and then our deep dive machine learning will report back answers, right? So that's one of the ones I think is the most useful, at least I would use the most in this scenario. That being said, we're still testing it because, as you know, it takes time to develop and learn things. And sometimes those answers, we want to make sure they're accurate, as accurate as we can. So we're testing that one. The other one I really like is the assessment builder. So you can work with us to build out the solutions, right? But let's say you're like, hey, I need an assessment from boating safety, and I don't want to go search in the internet. You can actually ask the assistant to say, build me out a boating safety assessment, and that would be your starting point, right? It just saves you time of having to go on the internet yourself, find all the questions, and then you would fine tune it from there. So that is another one. And then smart inspections, I don't know the most about.
Yeah, so smart inspection is cool. It's the ability. It's got a lot of different abilities, but some of the cool ones are if you're doing it, say writing it by hand, or you want to speak to something. You can load that in, it'll read it, it'll build out the inspection for you, fill in all the information through AI. And then it'll also help you fill it out as you're going and look at compliance things, other things that you need to know so that maybe you don't have to know everything as you're going through it. It'll look filled up for you. So there's some of the cool ones that we're looking at and making sure that the people that we have working on AI are making sure that we're also curating the knowledge it's giving. So if it's something to do with compliance, it is looking at the right thing rather than just some of them just look at the internet and give you anything. We want to make sure it's only looking at the right information. It's like that.
And everything that we're building is within our own scope of our platform, right? So your data is never shared or put out into the rest of the world with the Chat GPT, right? We've got the rights to that.
So I did look up Accommodate. So as with almost everything else, the forms, the workflow, the layout engine, those pieces are all done. A lot of the things we're working on for LHAT, such as sort of assignment, tenant level analytics, data migration, commenting, those are currently in the process as we work on LHAT. And then there are a few pieces that we haven't started on yet, such as notes, scheduling, expiration, and then side-by-side document comparison. So there are some pieces, I can't tell you exactly when that'll be done, but I can tell you that a lot of the pieces are done. Some of the pieces will be done when LHAT is done, and then we'll be pulling in the rest of those pieces, whether they're for specifically Accommodate or, like I said, a lot of those pieces are also reused for other things and other tools in the platform.
All right.
And just a reminder, feel free to use the Q&A to type in your questions. We do have a lot coming in, so that's great. But it's the Q&A within Zoom, not the chat feature.
Yeah.
Data validation.
Yeah, so we did get one about data validation across applications.
Why is there no data? Yeah.
So we do data validation specifically for, say, like chemicals and things like that. We do have a team that curates specific chemicals, but we also know, actually, this is something we've been looking into a lot lately with, different vendors have the same chemical but different names, different codes. Some of the vendors have different chemicals with the same ID code. So there is a lot of work there to curate those. And so sometimes for people, they can't find what they're looking for and they'll enter something, and we'll do our best to validate that.
This one's specific across applications.
Okay.
Sorry, Dr. Yeah, so I get what you're saying. We've heard this one before, right? So if I have an LHAT and I enter that I'm working with hazardous chemicals, but then I don't have an inventory or I don't have that chemical of pyrophoric, I'm just gonna keep using that example in my inventory. So we don't have that. Why we don't have it? Different priorities have just continued to come up over the years. However, I do believe in the platform with the business keys that I showed and that data mapper, there should be a way to tie a field from one solution to another field, or sorry, to another application and trigger some kind of notification. So it's on our radar. To be completely honest, we still have quite a bit of time. We have quite a bit of solutions to build out before I think that piece is fully in place. But I know our team is aware of that, and that has always been that would be a huge value add to folks, because you're going into you're preemptively kind of checking to make sure they have all the right component, like safety program pieces in place. All right. You want to do data reporting from?
Sure, I'll do my best to answer the data reporting one, although we could also follow up on this one. So we are moving all of the platform data is in a data lake, which is a large sort of data warehousing that allows us to normalize all that data. And we are also actually moving currently all of our legacy data in there as well, which will help with that normalization process, and will allow us to better provide both reports to you, but also provide you through that data export tool if you want to pull the information down yourself and create your own reports. We do know that a lot of campuses have maybe their own reporting groups that they work with, and they'd like to use that to create custom reports for them. I know I don't have necessarily an ETA on all of them. I know we're moving through different ones. Chemicals is being imported. Some of the other ones, inspect data is already there, as well as obviously pesticides away.
Yeah,
So
she's going to be interested in injury
it's in
IR.
INR. And so I know IRR is something that we're working on in there right now. And so I expect that data will be there very soon. I don't have an exact timeline, but that is something that we're working on. I don't know if it showed up on the roadmap as that, but that's one we're working on right now.
Yeah, and we can work with Tom at the specific campus and see if there's some follow up we can do and an additional information maybe to help with what looks like it's impacting you.
Yeah, and if you're having specific issues with data, you can always reach out to your CSR and they'll work with us and work with our data teams to make sure that we can provide you with the views or the information that you need.
All right. How drastic will a user interface change be when apps are moved to platform? Specifically, I'm concerned about apps that are used by a large part of the campus community, such as chemicals and LHAT. So you saw the platform right now. It's a pretty kind of crisp and simple look, but it will. I know what you're talking about. LHAT has that kind of big blue bar side kind of progress report going on. We do have UX UI. I believe our researcher is also on this call joining us to hear this feedback, and so that's been another, I think, big push on the customer side thing. We want to make sure that if we're going to introduce a new interface, that it's a better interface, right? That we are not taking away from the experience and the clients. And we will have users test it. We will do research. So it will be different. It will be more right now. If you go to chemicals to inspect, they look the same, but then if you go to LHAT, it looks different. The idea is all of the solutions will have a very similar look and feel so that people don't have to relearn how to use the solutions, right?
And part of the rollout will be training. We'll be providing training. Our CST team is pretty good at training. They've done a lot of training for different solutions. And so as you're working with them on your rollout, if you have concerns about that, we can definitely make sure that the training is there for your users. And we've had one.
We've got can you share the status of training data in RSS profile? If it will be decommissioned? As far as I know, I don't know anything about it being decommissioned. I know that's a big part of what the folks like, especially from the lab perspective. It may not live in profile moving forward, right? We have a groups concept. It may live in its own separate thing. But we can always check back with the team on that. I don't know, Tom, do you know anything on that one?
I was going to say we can reach out to this person separately and have that conversation. I think,
Yeah,
because I know that there was some changes with the training data that we are getting from LMS, the UC learning system. So that question might be more towards that.
Okay.
All right, so we do have a question about how to access some of the items, such as the job hazard assessment, field safety. Talk to your CS person, so to your representative, and they can work with making sure that your campus has access to that, and we can turn that on for whoever needs it. So we have a way of turning on if a campus wants something. We don't want to just flood all of the campuses with everything if they don't necessarily need things, because then that homepage and the selecting the applications you want to get to can become a bit overwhelming. We want to make sure you only have the things you need, make a better user experience. But if there's something that you want to use, let your customer success representative know, and they can work with us to make sure that gets turned on for you.
Correct. All right, this next one is a hard one, but I want to address it. Can you address the larger issue that many of us longtime users feel that RSS makes a lot of promises, but it seems like the reality never lives up to the expectation? We've had many issues with programs not working properly, and we are left to scramble to deal with the downstream effects to our campus customers. It's hard to trust what we're hearing. I hear you. I understand why that is enough. That is how you're feeling. All we can say is we are here today and moving forward to try to fix some of the trust issues that might be there. Because again, I know some of you were told 2 years ago you're going to have this platform. That's not happening right now, right? But we are making progress. But I understand where you're coming from, and I think all we can do is show you as opposed to tell you the progress, and work with you and continue to try to partner with you and get through some of these hurdles and get you a product that does actually live up to the expectations that you have.
Yeah, and we are still dedicated to, if there are bugs or issues that are stopping you from being able to do your work, we have our service desk, you have your customer success representatives, and we are still dedicated to trying to make sure every solution works for you, whether it's in the new platform or it is an existing system. If we can enhance things while putting them in the platform, that's our biggest goal. So if we're getting feedback that something could work better for you, if it was a little bit different, tell us, because we can take that into account as we build out the platform too, to make sure that the newer solutions are an enhancement over the existing ones for you.
Yeah, and you will be able to have more customizability. You will be able to test, like I said, as Will was mentioning, we've got these new training environments. So when we go to build something out, you can test it and you'll be able to say this isn't working properly. And then we can kind of work and iterate to figure out if we can close the gap on what's not working and what's possible from a technical point of view. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that question. I know that's you're not the only one that feels that way. So let's keep the conversation open.
There's a question here about in RSS procedures, there's customized e-signing on highly configurable safety plans with attachments. Will this transition to the platform? Yeah, it will transition to the platform. We are working on e-signature solutions for the platform, and our goal is, if it is there now, we will find a way to make sure it's also in the platform, either in an enhanced way or at least matching what you've got now.
And then LHAT is on the chart for next quarter. Is that a backend switch to platform that won't have significant impacts to the users, or something deeper? It is, yes. So the idea is to port over the data, so there's that the data will be there. That's what that data kind of mapper piece was, or expert that we have. The interface will be different. Significant impacts to users. The functionality will be the same, right? You'll still be able to fill out an LHAT, acknowledge it. The idea is to have at least a match for match what your current functionality is, but also an upgrade in that. So, for example, you could ask a customized question in your LHAT. Now, UCOP also help determine all those questions, so you have a little bit of a layer there. But if you wanted to have a question more specific to field safety in your LHAT or more specific to your campus, that will be doable with the platform, right? So people have been asking that for a long time, right? Everyone's on the same instance of LHAT right now. So, but it will be an interface change. It will be a full planned out, switch over. And like I said, with user testing, and we have support from the customer success team, and we actually have somebody dedicated to just the change management in general, because it's a lift, and it's going to impact users and yourselves as well. But that's why we want to partner and really plan it out together.
And I think I mentioned when we went over the roadmap, the dates on there, the things that are that we have scheduled to be done by the next quarter, that is technically done. We're not going to push anyone to roll out before they're ready. We're not going to just flip a switch and now all of a sudden everyone is on, say, the new version of LHAT. We are going to work with each campus to schedule that, work with them, make sure that their users are ready, and that we've got a good plan for making sure that it's going to work best for them.
Yeah, Will, I was going to ask you to kind of go over that again, because there's a difference between the back end features being coded up, but then actually being released to folks
Yeah.
to start using.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we get close to finishing things, the customer success team will be working with at each campus will be working with their users, with the directors to schedule. And as Dan said, we have someone dedicated to that change management, all working together to schedule. When does it make sense for that campus to move over to the platform version of the solution? How does that look? What training is necessary? All of those pieces before we actually make that switch.
And there's even a follow up question related to LHAT about support for transitioning records. So that sounds like data migration to me. Would someone be able to speak a little bit to that as well?
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time working on data migration to make sure that that's migrated correctly. So that because they'll all go into our data warehouse, our data lake. But we have a tool. We've developed tools that will allow us to take that data and map it into the new version, so that you can, if you want to, bring all of the existing data into the system, so that you don't lose any of those records.
Okay. And some questions are dropping off here. So I know there was just one about radiation. And so, but another one, sometimes the first responder in the customer service desk doesn't fully understand the full range of the problem when we submit a ticket. How can we ensure the right person is seeing the problem? So obviously they do their best, right? They triage it, they try to troubleshoot the ticket and look at it. We have folks that have been here a very long time doing that, but does that sometimes happen? Sure. We do have a new tool actually that I think will allow them to better triage that we've recently implemented, to know which kind of to know where you're at when the issue happens, right? If there's a bug or some sort of challenge that'll help get them to the right problem quicker. You can always follow through with your customer success person on campus too, but ideally we'd like to make sure the service desk is triaging and able to get it to the right person.
Yeah, and as I said, they're triaging it. If it isn't something that they can answer, that they fully understand, they are working with our project managers on our teams as well as our product developers to make sure that they get information back from the team that is responsible for that feature, and try to solve that through that.
And I know the person who put that in there is someone who's worked with us for a very long time. So you probably already know this, but for everyone else, the more information you can put in to the ticket, the better, right? I was doing this. I was on this page. Here's a screenshot. Like the more information you provide them, the faster they're going to be able to say, oh, okay, like that this needs to go up to the team. This is a defect, or oh, that's actually the training thing. And so just yeah, the more information, and then the quicker you can reply back, because sometimes there's a 24-hour a delay, like if they write back and the person's busy, right? You're all busy. So the quicker you can kind of, or even hop on a Zoom call, sometimes that just solves the problem too. Um,
For Will and
okay.
Diana, we're at about the 6 minutes left scheduled mark, just so you know.
Okay, perfect. For training records, will be any flexibility built into how things are displayed rather than the full list? Ability to, did we cover that one yet?
Then we have a
Okay. We don't have, I'm trying to think if you're speaking from a training, is that
I
like,
think that's more from the profile perspective, how there's like a list and
Yeah.
it's kind of a grid there. The interface of that page would be my guess for that question.
I don't know that we have thought that fully through yet because there's so many other pieces that we're working on, but that's actually a great piece of feedback, and we can work with our user experience and designers and team to put that feedback in for when we get to that displaying that content. Because I know we did talk about having like you would be able to configure on the back end perhaps like what courses you wanted to see, like giving some flexibility back to you all to just display the pieces, the things that you want. Okay. And then Lena, thank you for clarifying. I can't envision how radiation tool would look in the new format whenever that happens. In the meantime, I would like to see more support for legacy tools that are further down on your roadmap. All right. Noted. And I know we do try to still support some of the issues that people are running into. I know it's a big system, and I completely understand where you're coming back, trying to envision that in the platform, but it's not that different, honestly, than what it is now, because currently radiation is also just in our software, but we can have an offline conversation. And I can kind of talk through what I would envision that looking like since I was on the original RAD program.
So will we be able to use current format while using the new platform behind the scenes to help with the seamless transition for the researchers? And if so, will RSS do the platform and data migration for us? So we will do the data migration and help with platform migration. I don't. Our goal is to make a better user experience, and so we aren't going. We won't be able to use the exact user experience that we currently have or front end that we currently have while using the other in the back end. But we do have a. I know Diana mentioned we have a UI UX researcher that's on the call right now to get feedback, and they're doing a lot more reaching out to customers, doing testing with our customers before we release things to make sure that it works for them. And so, if you have concerns about the UI UX or the experience for the users, there's some you can reach out to us and we can work with you on that to make sure that what we're designing will not be confusing to them, will be easier for them to transition to, and will make more sense and honestly enhance that experience overall. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have concerns about the UI UX. And you probably, I'm assuming most of the people on this call will be people that will reach out to and ask for feedback on those new UI UXs.
And then how easy is it to add courses to the RSS profile training? It's pretty easy, is my understanding. I think you can put a ticket into the service desk. Tom?
Yeah, as long as it's within the UC Learning Center. If it's like hosted elsewhere, we're not able to do that at this time. But if it's like a campus LMS course, yes, please put in a ticket. Our CST team can help with that.
And then one more feedback from Victor. Hi, Victor. It's been a while. Training record, it'd be great if a PI in their group could just say, I just want to see these courses, right? So that's great feedback. We'll be sure to pass that along.
Yeah.
All right. I think that can thank you everyone for the questions. If you do not feel like we've answered it, or you would like more information or additional follow-up demos, conversations, by all means, please do reach out to your customer success team or ourselves directly. I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate your concerns and your openness and your honesty with us. And I think that, we're hoping we can continue to have these conversations and share information. Right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.